everybody. Is this on? Or is it just really loud? Oh. Mine's working. Is this working? No.
Hello?
No. Hey, Greg. My mic's not working.
Yeah.
No, there's
like duct tape all over it. I can yell. I got you covered.
Apparently, we're experiencing technical difficulties.
To put the
Is mine on?
hey. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Anybody home?
I don't.
Really, 105.
Can you hear me, Marnie? Can everybody out there hear me on the mic?
No.
Nope. Testing. Check, check, check. Apparently my mic, is it working now? Today. First, I'd like to take a roll call. Is the mic not on still? Marnie, are you working on that back there? Are we good? There we go. Good. Okay. I'll start over. Today is May 6th, 2013, 4:05 p.m. We'll go ahead and do roll call, please, and call to order.
Okay. Mayor Shirley,
Here.
Commissioner Blanchard,
Here.
Commissioner Crawford,
Here.
Commissioner Hardy,
Here.
Commissioner Householder.
Here.
Okay. Everyone that can, if we can go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence, please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Mayor, at this time, I would move that we move the awards and proclamations up in place of the Citizens Forum to do the awards first and then move the Citizens Forum before public hearings and items scheduled for a certain time.
Second it. All those in favor to move awards and proclamations above Citizens Forum due to a full house? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll go on to awards and proclamations first.
Item 4.1, the week of May 4th through 12th, 2013, as Travel and Tourism Week in the City of Salina. Michael Brungart, General Manager of Candlewood Suites, will read the proclamation.
2013 Kansas Tourism Week Proclamation. Whereas travel matters deeply to the economic prosperity of Kansas, as well as to the business wealth and to comfort and pleasure of individual travelers. And whereas tourism is responsible for creating 4.4% of the total gross state product and is the third largest industry in the state based upon employment. And whereas travel to and within Kansas provides significant economic benefits to the state, generating $5.8 billion in economic output in 2011, with $4.5 billion in direct benefit to core tourism industries, while spurring an additional $1.3 billion in economic enhancement to indirect industries. And whereas travel is among Kansas's largest private sector employers, supporting 128,000 plus core industry jobs in 2011, an increase of 7.8% more than in 2009, and an additional 19,580 indirect jobs were also supported by the core tourism activity. Whereas travelers' spending generated 14.4% of all Kansas state and local tax revenues, resulting in tourism tax contribution of an average of $917 per Kansas household. And whereas leisure and business travel taken in Kansas spurs countless benefits to travelers' creativity, cultural awareness, education, happiness, productivity, relationship, and wellness. And whereas in 2011, tourism expenditures contributed $245 million to economic wealth of Saline County. And whereas in 2011, tourism represented a 3.5% share of the total Saline County expenditures, and tourism expenditures in Saline County represented 3.2% share of the total state tourism expenditures, recording a growth of 8.8% over 2010. And whereas travel is a catalyst that moves local, state, and national economies forward. And now, therefore, I, Barb Shirley, Mayor of Salina, do hereby proclaim May 4th through the 12th, 2013, as Travel and Tourism Week in Kansas, and urge the citizens of Salina, Kansas, to join me in this special observation with appropriate events and commemoration.
With the appropriate events, can you please let us know what events you have planned?
Yes, we do. I'll turn that over to Sylvia.
Thanks, Michael.
Sylvia Rice, Director of Visit Salina at the Chamber of Commerce. We do have some things planned. We want everyone, and I think most of you already have, to like us on Facebook. We're doing contests all throughout the week talking about the impact of tourism in our area specifically and across the state. Next week, we'll be making visits to all of our hotel properties and our attractions, dropping off our summer survival kits. These are kits for the front desk for those that are coming into contact with our visitors to know what to expect and how to talk about things like the River Festival, Kenwood Cove, Penguin Landing at the zoo, and that kind of thing. So that happens next week. Further, we're going to take advantage of a coincidence of a couple of great entertainment options on May the 18th. We're inviting our frontline employees, desk clerks, wait staff, hostesses and hosts, all of those folks, again, that are our salespeople on the front lines, to come downtown, enjoy Sculpture Tour Salina, stop in at the info booth, and be registered specifically for those hospitality workers to receive a voucher. You guys want to pass that stuff out? A voucher for a ticket to the Bombers game that night, and also for a Bombers t-shirt. And so they'll do Sculpture Tour, and then that evening they'll go on to the Bombers and enjoy that. We have a couple of items for the 5 of you. We have a Bombers shirt for you.
Don't any of you change your shirts in front of me.
With the help of the Bicentennial Center and the Salina Bombers. Also, we have some packets of information for you talking about the impact of tourism for our community, our county, and our state.
They won the other day, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yay.
They've only lost one. They're
Right.
doing, they're doing
Lost one.
fantastic.
So the 18th will be the second to the last
Thank
home
you.
game. We're hoping that that'll be a big, big night for the Bombers. And the idea being our frontline employees need to get out and enjoy these opportunities so that they can sell them to the folks that come in to visit us. So that's coming up May 18th. In June, we'll do the same type of thing at the Community Theater. They're hosting with us all of our frontline employees that want to come down to see the last dress rehearsal of Legally Blonde, the musical. And so that's another opportunity for them to kind of see and do what their guests can see and do. And then later in the summer, we'll be doing the same thing at the Stiefel Theater, and they can bring their kids and see a movie. So we really try to use Tourism Week as a time to talk about the impact of tourism on our economy, on our workforce, and to thank those folks that are out there doing the hard job, really, day
And
to day.
I'd like to thank you for getting the hospitality industry involved, because I'm in the hospitality industry, and a lot of people don't realize, a lot of wait staff and your front desk clerks, they can't afford to go to all these
Right.
things all the time. So by you doing that, letting them go to see these things so they can talk about it to the people visiting Salina so they can get more revenue to Salina, that's great, because it's helping them, help the economy. It's just kind of a circle, and it's wonderful that you're doing that. I'm really impressed with that.
Thank you.
As a hospitality worker, knowing, the finance, I know how much they make.
It's tough. It's a tough industry to be
really
in.
Cool. It is. It's great.
Nobody's in it for the money. That's
No,
absolutely
no,
for
that's
certain.
true. It's true. And thank you for all the
Thank
work
you.
you do too, and everyone else at Visit Salina. I was on your Travel and Tourism Committee for 5 or 6 years, so I know how hard you guys work, and we do appreciate it.
I want to say also thank you. We've got a lot of the industry here. You see a lot of red.
that.
Red is the national tourism color.
I have red shoes on.
Yes.
Yes, I wear red high heels.
I appreciate that. We've got folks here from the hotel industry, from attractions, from our CNT advisory committee, and of course from our staff too. So
Good deal.
Appreciate
Great.
it.
Well, I have your proclamation and get that signed here, and I don't know if I'm giving it to Michael or
Michael.
Okay. Was there anything
Michael is
else?
the chair of our CNT committee, so
Okay, good
he's
deal.
good enough to agree to read.
All right. And very much appreciated. All right. Moving
Item
on. Oh, I'm sorry.
4.2, the day of May 15th, 2013, as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week of May 12th through the 18th, 2013, as National Police Week in the city of Salina. Lieutenant Sean Morton will read the proclamation.
Whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th as Police Officers Memorial Day and the week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week. And whereas law enforcement officers play an important role in safeguarding the rights, freedoms, safety, and security of the citizens of our community, and whereas the City of Salina desires to honor the valor, dedication, service, and sacrifice of its own peace officers, 4 of whom have been killed in the line of duty, and whereas 120 officers were killed in the line of duty in 2012 and more than 54,000 were assaulted, our community joins with other cities and towns to honor all peace officers everywhere. Now, therefore, I, Barbara Shirley, Mayor of the City of Salina, do hereby proclaim the week of May 12th to May 18th, 2013 to be Police Week, and call upon all citizens in this community to especially honor and show our sincere appreciation for the police officers of the city by deed, remark, and attitude. I'll call upon all our citizens to make every effort to express their thanks to our officers who make it possible for us to leave our homes and families in safety each day and to return to our homes knowing that they are protected by officers willing to sacrifice their lives if necessary and to guard our loved ones, property, and government against all who would violate the law. Signed this 6th day of May 2013 at the City of Salina, State of Kansas.
Now, do you have any events planned for the week?
Yes, May 15th we hold our annual law enforcement memorial, which is at Jerry Ivy Park, 8 a.m. And you're going to do our welcome address, so I appreciate that.
I
And then
appreciate the opportunity to do that.
we will, and after the service, we'll have some refreshments at the shelter right next to the memorial.
How is our officer doing that's just returned back to work recently?
Good. He's very excited about being back to work,
Good.
and yeah, I think he's enjoying it.
Great. I'm just glad to have him back and not out of harm's way, but safe and back with his family and survived the ordeal and did that for us citizens. So I wish he was here so I could thank him in person, but hopefully on
On that day, he's going to read the names of the fallen officers,
Okay.
so he'll be part
Great,
of
great. So I can thank him in
this.
person.
Yep.
Wonderful, wonderful. Give you your signed proclamation.
Thank you. Morton.
All right, that's all we have for awards and proclamations. So now we'll go back in the correct order, and seeing that we do have a lot of people here, we'll go ahead and go to our citizens forum. So if anyone would like to approach the commission for anything that's not on the agenda, come on up.
Hi
Please
there.
state your name and address.
Lou Tryon. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Thank you. Lou Tryon, 2122 Leland Way in Salina here. I'm here representing Salina Cares, and I want to talk about fluoridation. Fluoridation is the putting of fluoride, which is a poisonous, hazardous waste contaminant from the fertilizer company, into our Salina public water. This fluoride is not the same as the groundwater fluoride that occurs naturally. Fluoride is very reactive and binds with phosphates, which are needed for the manufacturing of fertilizer. Phosphate contains naturally occurring uranium-238, radium-226, arsenic, and lead. And of course, we know what the safe level for lead is. We have been purchasing this hazardous waste contaminant for 46 years in Salina. Only 1% of this water is used for drinking and cooking. The other 99% is wasted down the drain and goes back into the environment, in the soil, or into the rivers, into the oceans, because we use the 99% for washing dishes, laundry, showers, washing cars, and so forth. Besides wasting this fluoride in the water, we're also wasting the tax money used to purchase it. In 2011, we paid about $15,000 for fluoride. In 2012, we paid the same amount. Now, that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but we have to remember this has been going on for 46 years, and if we don't put a stop to fluoridation, we're going to be doing it for another 46 years, and that amount is going to accumulate. Fluoride kills 26 enzymes in the soil and in our bodies. We need enzymes to build new tissue, to provide energy for ourselves, and for digestion. Digestion is very important if you're going to use the food and the vitamins that you take in. The CDC, in its own words, states that the main benefit of fluoride comes from topical application. That means putting it right on the teeth and not ingestion. So there's no reason to do the fluoride in the water. There are many communities stopping fluoridation. We stopped it in the 1950s when we voted it down 5-1 against. But we were betrayed 12 years later by the City Commission, who mandated fluoride into the water in 1968. 97% of Western Europe no longer fluoridates. Switzerland has stopped it. The health minister of Israel has stated fluoridation will be stopped this year in Israel. Wichita turned it down by 60%. Santa Fe, New Mexico just turned it down. Portland, Oregon will vote on it next month. In Portland, Oregon, over 24 medical doctors showed up at the City Commission meeting and said they were against fluoridation. You can see that picture for yourself on Fluoride Action Network. The state of Utah just now passed a law, and the governor has signed it, that there will be stricter testing for fluoridated water as to its purity, and it will list all contaminants that are connected with the fluoride. They had a big spill in one of their cities in Utah, and when they had to clean it up, they found out they had all these other contaminants as well. And so they said, we're going to do better than the ANSI, the ANSI certification that we use here and in other cities. We're going to do a better job of figuring out what's in that water. Local health officials continue to promote fluoride, even though in 2011 the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services recommended a nationwide reduction in fluoride levels. This was after it learned that 41% of American adolescents ages 12 to 15 have dental fluorosis, a clear sign of overexposure to fluoride, and that the rate is continuing to increase steadily. And Secretary Fabelius put it in the federal record, and that's where they got this information from, that there is a real problem with too much fluoride being ingested. Current research has shown that fluoride, a chemical that is used in rat poison, does a lot more harm than good. The fluoride found in tap water has actually been shown to damage tooth enamel, increase fracture risk, suppress immune and thyroid function, increase cancer risk, and disrupt the function of the pineal gland. The pineal gland is responsible for mood and feelings in your body. There are 6 things we want to remember about fluoride. Number 1, fluoride accumulates in your body. A typical healthy adult kidney can only remove about half of the fluoride ingested each day from all sources. Any remaining fluoride can accumulate in the bones and the pineal gland. Infants and children excrete even less fluoride from their kidneys and absorb up to 80% of ingested fluoride into their bones. Number 2, fluoride destroys the male and female reproductive system. There are 2 studies now that show fluoride damages sperm and increases the rate of infertility. Girls in the fluoridated communities reach menstruation 5 months earlier than those in the non-fluoridated community. Number 3, formulated fed babies receive the highest doses of fluoride. Infants are the most vulnerable to fluoride toxicity, and bottle-fed babies have the highest exposure to fluoride. Given the large number of formula-fed infants in the U.S., prolonged exposure to high intakes of fluoride during infancy is much more common today. Due to their small size, inability to excrete more than a small amount of fluoride through their kidneys, infants are exposed up to 400% more than adults. This may help explain why bottle-fed babies suffer higher rates of dental fluorosis, which is the discoloration of the teeth caused by excessive fluoride ingestion during childhood. In addition, studies suggest that infant fluoride exposure can lead to lowered IQ and thyroid dysfunction. There are now 35 Harvard studies that show the link between fluoride and lower IQ, as much as 7 IQ points. Number 4, fluoride hardens arteries. A higher fluoride uptake in coronary arteries due to great fluoride ingestion, and they're referring to people who work outside in the summertime and it's very hot and they're drinking excessive amount of water, leads to increased cardiovascular risk. Ingesting too much fluoride can turn your arteries and heart to stone in a process called vascular calcification. Number 5, fluoride causes loss of IQ and neurological problems. The EPA lists fluoride among about 100 chemicals for which there is substantial evidence of developmental neurotoxicity. Preclinical research suggests that fluoride accumulates in the brain and affects mental behavior. It therefore should come as no surprise that published studies show an association between fluoride exposure and reduced intelligence. They found that IQ was inversely correlated with urinary fluoride concentrations, and they discovered that the fluoride level in children's urine could accurately predict which children would perform poorly on IQ tests. Lastly, number 6, fluoride negatively impacts thyroid function. The EPA estimates that children ages 1 through 3 typically ingest over 1.5 milligrams of fluoride from all sources each day, which is more than twice the amount necessary to induce altered thyroid function. Because of this new scientific information, which is very important and very serious, we are asking you to let us set up a study group with you and go over this more thoroughly. It is very, very serious, and we are talking about everyone's health here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lou.
Thank you.
And
And
I
I
will
do
get
have
with
extra
I will
copies
get with
of
Jason
those
later and see
if
if
you
that's
need.
possible, how to go about setting something like that up.
Thank you. We
And
appreciate
along
that.
with my other commissioners as well.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
I wanted to point out a couple of quick things real quick. You mentioned just one factor that I happen to know right off the bat. You mentioned how Europe doesn't fluoridate at all. It's because they give their fluoride in salt. It's just a different delivery format. So to sit here and to say that fluoridation does not take place in Europe is a complete
And that
falsity.
salt would be the natural groundwater.
Yeah, also the fluoride, most of the fluoride used in water systems does not come from fertilizer. It actually comes from the natural occurring fluoride is where it comes from.
What I've read, there's about 10% of the cities that can afford to buy the pharmaceutical grade. The rest do it the other way through the fertilizer and aluminum industry.
Yeah, and I'm all for hearing these. I just want to make sure that you're not
Sure.
too slightly
Well,
slanting the
And that's what we
the
do.
information.
We want people to look these facts up. Look these facts up. Fluoride Action Network will tell you a lot of this information. It covers everything all over the world.
Okay. And you could go to likemyteeth.org and find complete counters to all the information you're giving us. So again, I'm glad you're bringing it up. I think I've always expressed you guys. I appreciate your
That's right.
enthusiasm for doing
And
it.
we appreciate you not sweeping this under the rug and looking this up for yourself. That's what it's all about.
Right.
We all have to search and we all have to study. And then we'll put all of our facts together. Thank you.
Thank you, Lou.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Dennis Benoit, 1773 20th Road, Ellsworth County, but I was born here. I'm just going to cover a couple items. Lou wanted me to mention a couple of these studies. This one here deals with, this is some of the information they knew down in Wichita. And matter of fact, I was in the Sedgwick County Commission room when Dr. Paul Connett used this very graph here from 2010 showing the differences between tooth decay trends in 12-year-olds comparing fluoridated to non-fluoridated countries. There's relatively no difference. This is the area here, no difference. The other study that she wanted me to cover was one that you probably haven't heard about. It was a study mandated by the U.S. Government Institute of Dental Research, paid for by the taxpayers in 1986 to the tune of several $million, that proved non-fluoridated communities had less cavities than fluoridated communities. Now, why didn't you hear about that? Well, it wasn't published. I'm afraid it was never published. You can go to you have to go through the U.S. Freedom of Information Act to access that. And when it was requested, well, they made it really hard on the people. They had to put in several months of their own time and effort to calculate all the figures and everything. But this was done in 1986. The reason it was never published because it didn't promote fluoridation. But this is the other one. This came out in 2010 from the CDC about dental fluorosis. She mentioned a little bit, over 40% of the 12 to 15-year-olds have some form of dental fluorosis. Most of it's in the very mild area, but this is just an indicator because you see they were doing this survey in 1999 to the year 2004. So a person that was, let's say, born in 1985 had a 40% chance, over 40%, they rounded off to 41, of having dental fluorosis. Now that's what, about 25 years ago by our standards? Well, they're saying that the kids have that over 40%. So like me, I didn't know what dental fluorosis was, but they have a definition right here. I'll read very shortly. It just says that defined as a change in mineralization of the dental hard tissue caused by long-term ingestion, eating, and drinking of fluoride during the period of tooth development prior to eruption into the mouth, first 8 years of life, excluding the third molar. So that's an indicator that the children, your, mine, everybody's, has been gotten too much fluoride. And now, of course, you know that, was it 1-2 years ago, they reduced the fluoride in the water. But this is 25 years old. The children they were studying are 25 years old today. So I would just ask you to please look at the current data, the information, and decide for yourself. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I would point out that study that you mentioned in the foreign that you guys bring up often. I'll just mention that the foreign studies that anti-fluoride activists cite involve fluoride levels that were at least double or triple the levels used to fluoridate drinking water in the U.S. It's irresponsible to claim these studies have any real meaning for our situation in the U.S. Also, British researchers looked at those studies that you continue to call the Harvard studies, who evaluate these studies from China and other countries, found basic errors. These researchers pointed out that the lower IQs could be traced to other factors, such as arsenic exposure, the burning of high fluoride coal inside homes, and the eating of contaminated grain. You also mentioned that you were saying that states that have high rates of water fluoride have higher decay rates than states where water fluoridation is less common. How can that possibly be? Well, they say community water fluoridation is proven to reduce decay, but is only a factor that affects the rate of tooth decay. Water fluoridation plays a critical role in decay prevention, but other factors also influence decay rates. Researchers often call these factors as confounding factors. Someone who ignores confounding factors is violating a key scientific principle. A person's income level is a confounding factor in tooth decay because low-income Americans are more at risk for decay than upper-income people. This makes sense because income studies or status shapes how often a person visits dentists, their diet, nutrition, or other factors. What I'm basically saying is many of the factors that you guys bring to us constantly are leaving out 99% of the information that's out there, and you find one small parcel of misinformation, and you constantly bring it to us. And that's fine. You can keep coming all day long, but I'll just keep reading these all day long, too. I mean, I can talk more than anybody. That's fine. It's fine that you're here. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's fine that you come. And it's a very friendly tone that you come in, but I mean, I just want you guys to start trying to bring some facts to us instead of these highly distorted facts. I mean, I'm almost to the point of saying studies are like statistics. You know, I mean, and again, I'm not trying to be really argumentative, confrontational. I'm just trying to put some facts here, so people at home hear one side of it and they go, oh my God, I can't believe that really happened. But again, I keep hearing this Harvard study mentioned time and time again, and that thing has been debunked. The people at Harvard have even said, hey, look, no, that's not what our study said. That's not what we ever mentioned. So, but anyway, go ahead. And I've responded enough, so I'll let you guys go ahead in the interest of time, and I won't respond anymore, but I just want to throw a few of your key ones out that you mentioned and get some at least levity to them. So.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. I'm John Bozen, 1373 Eagle Crest here in Salina. Also here to speak on removing fluoride from Salina's water. I have a report here from the 2006 report from the National Research Council, and they did a study called Fluoride in Drinking Water, a Scientific Review of EPA Standards, and a quote from there is that the major benefit of fluoride is topical and not systemic. So there's controversy there, and so our point in objecting to water fluoridation is that even though you may manage the concentration, you cannot manage the dose. So people that are vulnerable to overdose are literally being damaged physically by whether they're getting calcium fluoride or sodium fluoride or one of the sodium compounds from industrial waste. They referred to cancer, several studies indicating that at least some positive associations of fluoride with one or more types of cancer. Bone fractures, there was consensus, there is scientific evidence that fluoride can weaken bone and increase the risk of fractures. Although fluoride might increase bone volume, there is less strength per unit. They mentioned reduced IQ. Modifications of the effectiveness of the nervous system act to reduce the tested IQ scores. The IQ scores in both males and females declined with increasing fluoride exposure. And I know you're not all proud of the 69% graduation rate from Salina schools. So, and those kids are graduating from parents that were started fluoride back in the 60s. Alzheimer's disease, fluorides also increase the production of free radicals in the brain through several different biological pathways. These changes have a bearing on the possibility that fluorides act to increase the risk of developing Alzheimer's disease, and overall, on the basis of information largely derived from histological, chemical, and molecular studies, it's apparent that fluorides have the ability to interfere with the functions of the brain and the body by direct and indirect means. I just found out about something else, too. I don't know if you're familiar with the Iowa study, University of Iowa study in 2009. The National Institutes of Health issued a large grant. This was in the 1990s, and it was just recently published. Issued a large grant to the University of Iowa researchers to investigate the relationship between total daily fluoride intake from all sources and several health outcomes of interest, namely tooth decay, dental fluorosis, and bone health. Known as the Iowa Fluoride Study, the researchers monitored the fluoride intakes of over 600 Iowa children from birth to adolescence while conducting periodic exams of the children's dental and bone health. Thus far, the study, which remains an ongoing one, paints a picture of fluoride's risk-benefits that is at stark odds with the quasi-mythical narrative that U.S. health authorities have long peddled. The findings suggest that achieving a caries-free status may have relatively little to do with fluoride intake, while fluorosis is clearly more dependent on fluoride intake. So they're blaming the fluorosis on the fluoride intake, but they're not saying that the cavity reduction has anything to do with fluoride ingestion. So I just found this. I don't have more details on it, and I'm sure we can get into that in more detail. I do want to say that the Harvard study was debunked by the Wichita Eagle based on conjecture and hearsay, and the people that were directly involved in the Harvard study came back and railed against the misinformation published by the Wichita Eagle and picked up by the Kansas City Star, so that the wrong information wouldn't be unfairly used against the population of people that were being forced to consume fluoridated water. And the fluoride study that I just mentioned, the National Research Council talked about, was quoted by the Harvard people, and so here's a Dr. Choi team writes, fluoride readily crosses the placenta. Fluoride exposure to the developing brain, which is much more susceptible to injury caused by toxicants than is the mature brain, may possibly lead to damage of a permanent nature. So we're saying, if in doubt, leave it out. And in support of the long-term water plan here in Salina, as well as the mission and strategic plan of the City of Salina, that it be known as an environmentally friendly green community, the citizens and stakeholders of Salina propose the following municipal code of the City of Salina be amended to include the following. The City of Salina's Director of Utilities is authorized and directed to stop fluoridating the City of Salina's public drinking water supply with sodium fluorosilicate or any other solid or liquid compound containing fluorides. Upon the direction of the Director of Utilities, the City of Salina Water Department is authorized and directed to cease operating the equipment and delivery system necessary to introduce any fluorides into the public drinking water supply, and thereafter dismantle, remove, and dispose of said equipment and delivery system. Any person who violates any provisions of this act or any rules or regulations of the City of Salina for the enforcement of this act shall be guilty of a felony. Just some ideas to throw out for you. We can email this to you.
Okay.
We're trying to be creative here, but you understand that I personally am a victim of fluoride. I grew up in a fluoridated community. I had the best dental care from a dentist we refer to fondly as the butcher, and I have about half my teeth. So I don't believe in fluoride. I think it's wrong to put it in, and I think it's unfair to force people to ingest a chemical that is being put in the water for the treatment of people, not for the processing and the purification and the protection of the water. And it is wasted. 99% of it or more goes down the drain for irrigation, for golf courses and cemeteries. The fire department uses it. You know, how do trucks and cars benefit from having fluoridated water? But that damages the water table. It damages the crops. You can't have an organic garden if you use water from the City of Salina and the other communities, the rural water districts that use the Salina water. So there's health issues, there's environmental issues, there's ethical issues that we're wanting to raise here, and we'd really like the fluoride to be out of the water before we fill the swimming pools and kids start swimming in the fluoridated water. Thank you.
I have one real quick question, though. When you were saying with Salina trying to go green, I know Greensburg, when they were doing their rebuilding, they went green. Is there fluoride in Greensburg's water supply, do you know?
I haven't checked, but I could look really
Yeah,
quickly.
yeah.
The CDC keeps a database of all the communities in the country.
I was just curious if they did that when you were talking about going green.
I'd be happy to look and let you know.
If not, Dennis McKinney would be the one to get a hold of in Greensburg. He used to be a Department of Agriculture, and then he was the mayor down there, and he's pretty easy to find and get a hold of.
Wonderful. I appreciate that.
So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I see you running.
I really didn't, excuse me, my name is Lene Meyer. I live at 2242 Huntington Road here in Salina. I really didn't come here to speak about this issue because I didn't know it was going to happen, but I need to say that when I grew up in a small rural town in western Kansas, We didn't have running water in the house, and we went out to the backyard and pumped it out of our well and did not have fluoride. I haven't done any studies, but when I open my mouth and look, I see a number of cavities that I had filled. On a side note, by a dentist who smoked cigars. So my experience wasn't very positive. But I grew up, moved away from that hometown, and moved to Salina way back in the 80s, and haven't had a cavity since. So whatever that's worth.
Thank you.
I don't know if I'm a week late or what. You know, I want to comment on your deal with the, you know, where you signed a deal for gay marriage. Is that okay to bring up today?
I'm sorry, what was your name and address, please?
John Miller, 1202 Prospect.
Okay.
I was very concerned that you done that, and in fact, I was kind of shocked and exposed, you know, because during your acceptance speech, you were talking about other things, priorities need to get done here in Salina. And I don't know, you know, I'm confused about your agenda, Barb. I don't know what your agenda is. You know what I'm saying? Next week we're going to raise the rainbow flag above the city-county building? I don't know. I'm very confused why you're doing this.
Right. If you read the newspaper article, I said I have zero tolerance for discrimination. Barb Shirley.
Yeah, but you.
I did not say the city of Salina. I said.
But you involved the city of Salina by being in that authority as a mayor to do that.
Right, but
and that wasn't right for you to do that, as far as I'm concerned. Okay.
And that's not pushing off an agenda on anybody. It's just saying I pledge to support it.
Because
I support it.
Right.
And I'll continue to support it.
Because you know, this is Salina, a small community. This ain't Chicago, New York, San Francisco or something, you know. We need to get with our priorities, what needs to be done in the city of Salina. You know, we got children here, and we got older folks. You know, so drop here, Jim, if you can, and just move on, get things done, if you would, you know.
Yeah, and I have no agenda whatsoever with that. And
well, you know, that's twice that you brought that up. Last year's LBGD deal. You know what I'm saying?
It's completely different. That was an ordinance.
You know?
Spoke, and that was done with.
I don't know anybody that discriminates against gays.
Okay. Well,
you know what I'm saying? You're the only one to get it. You're the only one to get discriminated against. Nobody else. Woo, huh? Come on. Let's go. Wake up, man. You know, so what I'm saying is quit empowering them here in Salina, Kansas, okay? All right?
And I have my priorities.
And, you know, and get your priorities right and work what you're supposed to do as mayor. If you can't, then you need to resign.
Well, I'm not resigning.
You know, well, that's where I feel about it, okay?
I am
all right?
What's right.
So you got your crowd here with you.
What crowd?
Right?
Is that, are you discriminating against the crowd here?
No, no, I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying? But you, for the first act that you come out with, that's what the first thing you did,
Complete
you know, that's what threw me for a loop there, you know what I'm saying? So what's your priorities? I don't know.
I supported equality.
What?
That I supported equality and no discrimination, yet the week before you came to a county commission and defended a man that said a racial slur.
Look,
That's
you know,
you're
spending more city time on that discrimination part than you are like age discrimination, you know, minority discriminations, all kinds of discrimination. So why do you make that your top priority?
Those are already
I don't know
classes.
either. So you need to get with what you're supposed to do as a mayor and get it done, okay?
I am doing it.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
I hope you will from now on.
Thank you.
I really do. Thank you.
I appreciate that.
My name is Tracy Zinn. I live on 340.5 South Connecticut, Salina, Kansas. I'm very proud of my mayor, Barbara Shirley. I'm very proud of you, and thank you so much. Am I the only gay person that live in here in Salina? Is that it? I've been discriminated.
Only the most obvious, Tracy.
Oh, I'm sorry for my overall. I mean, this is getting so ridiculous. It's like, my gosh, what's going to be next? Is Fred Phelps going to be here inside this building? Is that what religion is all about now? I have a lovely poem to read from Rummy. I'll get to it in a bit. I mean, the city is full of gay people in Salina, and they think that they're not discriminating, but they are discriminating against gay people everywhere in the state of Kansas. From Wichita to here, there's a group called American Values. What kind of value do you, if you're teaching hatred and antichrist? Okay? I got a poem here I got to read by Rummy, and then I go on my way. It's written by written by Rummy, and then edited by Deepak Chopra, and it goes like this. In my hallucination, I saw my beloved flower garden. In my vertigo, in my busyness, in my dizziness, in my drunken haze, whirling and dancing like a spinning wheel, I saw myself as the source of existence. I was there in the beginning, and I was the spirit of love. Now I am sober. There is only one hangover, and the memory of love. The sorrow. I yearn for happiness. I ask for help. I want mercy. And my love says, look at me and hear me, because I am here just for that. I am your moon and your moonlight too. I am your flower garden and your water too. I have come all this way eager for you, without shoes or shawl. I want to laugh, to kill all your worries, to love you, to nourish you. Oh, sweet bitterness. I will soothe you and heal you. I will bring you roses. I too have been covered with thorns. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
My name is Joseph Coachman. I am a retired clergy living in Salina at 1506 Louise Lane. I am not gay, straight, bi, gendered, or I'm just old. But as a member of a community for which Christ died for all to mean all, I thank you for your comments about justice. I thank you for your comments about equality. It is much, much more than an issue about who sleeps with whom and who marries whom. It's about the rights of every individual to be what God created them. I have 3 biracial children that at the time we adopted the first one, it was illegal in 12 states in this country. There are still states in this country where my biracial grandchildren do not exist. They are forced to choose a race. That is not equality. It is much more than a gender issue. It is a people issue. And I thank you for putting people first.
Thank you, Joseph.
Name's Gary Martins, 821 Highland Avenue here in Salina. And I don't really have any prepared comments, but again, I just wanted to thank Barb Shirley for her comments or her signing of the declaration from the mayors. And I think, for anybody that's followed this, it's very clear that, there's been discussion of taking away from duties and priorities. You signed a document. It didn't take away from any city things other than these hearings, the time that it takes now.
Right.
It's clear that also from the statement you've made that it was your signature, not the city's signature with that. At the same time, I'd like to thank you, though, because it allowed some positive news, some positive headlines to come out of the city of Salina, from which we haven't had in a while. With the recent happenings, as well as not only out of Salina, but out of the state of Kansas. My children, as well as many children I know and their friends, they can't wait to flee the state because of the reputation we have. And so by putting the name out every so often, there's a hope and a glimmer for some equality and positive statements. So I guess that's what I'm going to say. I know we have a group of people here that support you, and I'd like to appreciate if they'd all stand. And with that, that's all I have to say. Yeah. Feel free if anybody on the commission may stand as well. But
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Gary's my neighbor, and you could not find a better neighbor.
There you go.
I must be on the wrong block of Highland. I need to move 2 blocks. 2 blocks.
Oh, none of your neighbors are here. Yeah.
I don't see any of my neighbors.
Okay, this will be quick. This is why I really came. My name is Lene Meyer. I live at 2242 Huntington Road. And I also want to say I appreciate, Barb, your support of human rights. It shows a lot of wisdom, maturity, compassion, and courage. I'm sure it's not always easy. I also want to share my concern and say to the opposition that I think it's really time to take a look at what's behind that concern. And from what I've observed over the years, working with folks, is that it's fear. And once they take a look at what they're afraid of and why, and heal their own woundedness and their own past and deal with their own stuff, instead of perhaps pointing fingers at others, then perhaps we can all get to that place where we can treat one another as we all would like to be treated. Thanks.
That was wonderful. I hope the paper uses that. Thank you.
My name is Larry Bunker, 821 Highland Avenue. I didn't come prepared at all either. I didn't expect this, but based on the public hearings and everything we had in the past and dealing with LGBTs, that there is discrimination in Salina based on the people's comments. People saying they didn't want to be made illegal, didn't want to be put in jail for issues they had done during the comments. Based on all of the comments made on the Facebook and forums throughout the papers, things and stuff, there's definite hatred towards homosexuals in Salina. So I am proud that Barb Shirley, you as a person signed the paper, and as our mayor, like it was said before, good things coming out of Salina is needed. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that'd like to approach for comments? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Debbie Grosser. I live at 1373 Eagle Crest Road. And I, too, want to thank you, Barb Shirley, for your stand on this and your courage. I think it's about time that we all live by the golden rule and not only accept but embrace our differences without judgment and live from the heart. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Larry Perea, 1020 South Santa Fe. I didn't come prepared, but I did write a couple things. First of all, and I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but I think this is 5 commissioners and mayor up here are the finest people we've had in a long time.
Well, 4 of them anyway.
Okay, I read the newspapers, I listen to the radio. I think management probably is the most interesting thing. You read it. Nowadays, it's everything is micromanaged. They micromanage people, don't let the supervisors on down make a decision. I think we got a lot of yes people. I'm retired since 2006. I think we got a lot of yes people. When Shirley stood up, I said, I'm proud of her for standing up. I got a call from, my family lives in Colorado. I get calls when Reverend Phelps is around. Okay, I got a call and said how proud they were of our Madam Mayor, Shirley. I, too, am proud of her for standing up and not being one of these yes persons. And I think she's doing a fine job so far. These
you're on the
5
hook.
days.
You're on the hook.
I didn't mean so far. What I mean, the limited time.
We can only go up from here.
And you can only go up for here, and no, I don't want you to resign. And thank you, Barb, for standing up
Thank you.
for your
Thank you.
beliefs.
And thank your family in Colorado for their positive thoughts. I appreciate that.
I would point out, you mentioned Fred Phelps Group. I also would point out that the Wichita group that came up, the Family Research Council, has been identified by the Southern Poverty Law Center as a hate group. That was never really brought out. It's not because they're anti-gay. It's because of the disinformation that they spread, and they came into our community and did this. So I think as people discuss this, they need to keep in mind the Southern Poverty Law Center sees the Family Research Council as a hate group.
Yes, sir.
Bill Salmon, 744 South 10th, Salina, Kansas, retired clergy. How do you know when you make a right decision? One way that you do that is when the intention of the decision is to bring people together and to honor our diversity. I want to say I'm grateful for someone who's willing, as this gentleman was, to stand up and express his opinion. We need diversity. We don't all need to have the same point of view, and to have that is a great privilege in this country. And I'm so proud of the fact that you have made this decision with the right mind and right purpose in mind. But we also need to remember that there are other people who have representative different views, and I'm so grateful because the need is for dialogue.
Right.
Once we get to know each other, that's the important thing that we have. So thank you very much for starting something that will have an opportunity to educate people about the issue of homosexuality and the other issues that are confronting us in moral concerns. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and hopefully people will keep an open mind and try to educate themselves.
Good.
Would anyone else like to come up for Citizens Forum?
You're saying that because they're singing your praises.
No, I get embarrassed really easy, so I'm actually, my face turns red. All right, so we'll go ahead and I got one more, here it is. I wasn't expecting the praising group, really.
My name is Shelley Martin, and I live at 2328 Edward here in Salina. I don't have a whole lot I want to say because, like everyone else, I really wasn't prepared to say something. But Barb, I just want to thank you for, on behalf of myself and my partner, Ruth Brodus, we know where your heart lies, and that's why you're going to make the best mayor that this city has ever seen, because of the heart that you have,
thank you.
and because of your desire to want to be someone who believes in diversity and not everybody thinking the same way.
Right.
And I know that you believe in my rights just as much as you believe in that gentleman's rights.
Yes, I do.
And so I'm here to praise you for that. Thank you for your leadership, and to tell you that I'm very humbled to know that I come from a city that has a mayor like Barb Shirley.
Well, thank you very much.
Enjoy that title. It'll be short-lived.
Yes, sir, John.
Personally, I don't hate you, okay? But
I appreciate
I got priorities I need to see get done here in
And I do
Salina.
appreciate-
Okay, that's
I-
what.
I do
Now,
appreciate
you
your
talk
views.
about discrimination. These two ladies are sitting over here beside me. When they found out what I said, they've got over and moved away. Right? now, are you gay? Okay, well, it seems like gay is discriminating against me. What's the problem here, Shirley?
Well, I used to live on State Street, and my neighbors didn't mow the lawn, so I picked up and moved to another neighborhood, too. So it's-
Personally, I don't have anything against you, okay? But I just, I'm frustrated. I want to get things done here in this city. I've been here 66 years, and Christ, I'm tired of waiting, you know what I mean?
And there are things that need to get done.
You're right.
I'm 100% dedicated to that. Oh.
We talked about priorities.
Yes, sir.
Larry Perea, 1020 South Santa Fe. We talk about priorities. We don't want the clergy dividing the city. Everybody has their own interpretation. That's why we've got so many churches. But anyway, we got priorities. I just read on the Yahoo News today that a 4x100 racing, what is that? The relay 4x100 down in Texas. This high school team hosted it. They wanted to go to the championship. The anchor man finished way ahead of them. They were disqualified. The anchor man finished he ran over the finish line, and he went like that. He pointed to heaven. They disqualified the team.
For that.
For that. They can't, they won't go to the championship. They asked him what he thought about it, and you know what he said? I don't want to talk because I want to race next year. Where are our priorities? This guy's a junior. This is a high school. He did this. Where we talk about priorities, we have a lot of priorities.
We do.
Okay? We are here to support Barb, but we would be here to support Barb anyway. Madam Mayor, we do support you, and you do have your priorities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that is everybody. So we'll go on to public hearings and items scheduled for a certain time, which I have none. Sorry, I had to I got a little distracted here. Consent agenda.
Item 6.1, approve the minutes of April 22nd, 2013. Item 6.2, resolution number 13-7001, authorizing an amendment with USD 305, assigning 4 uniformed law enforcement officers to serve in the School Resource Officer Program. Item 6.3, authorization to reject bids for the replacement of 1 utility cart. Item 6.4, resolution number 13-7002, modifying the fee assessed for review and approving telecommunications contract franchise applications. And item 6.5, resolution number 13-7003, providing for incorporating a proposed indoor recreation facility in the City of Salina 2013 to 2017 capital improvement program identified as for further review.
Okay, is there anything a commissioner would like removed from the consent agenda?
Madam Mayor, I have a correction to the minutes. I don't know where that would fall.
What would the correction be?
Under the item where it says Mayor Shirley expressed her sorrow, the word thank should have an ED attached to it.
Okay. Were you an English teacher?
Well, you know what? I was the only reason I talk about that is that before I ran, I got onto the city website, and there's a section where you can review the minutes from 1919.
Oh gosh.
And I just wanted to be associated with minutes that had good grammar.
Okay.
You know?
Well, wonderful.
That's it.
My old college roommate was the same way. She was always on me about stuff on proofreading.
See, John, this is why government slows down right here. It's all about the EDs. I'm telling you. We would have those roads paved, but it's Randall over here.
Can you go ahead and make that correction on our minutes?
Yeah.
Are there any other comments or questions to approve the minutes?
I move we approve the consent agenda as correction to the minutes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. That is approved. On to development business.
Item 7.1, consider amending the present neighborhood revitalization program area by including areas within the city limits of Salina and located north of the flood control levee, and instructing staff to notify and request approval of the amended area from the eligible taxing entities.
Mr. Hobby.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mayor, Commissioners, we bring for you today, a return to you again today to talk about a map, potential amendment to our existing 2009-2013 Neighborhood Revitalization Plan. I was kind of hoping that all the people in the audience were here to talk about the Neighborhood Revitalization Plan, because it would be a great plan for people to look at and see if there's a way for them to receive some type of a tax rebate on their properties for rehabilitation that takes place. We have, John has put up for you the existing map of the areas that we have in the revitalization plan as it sets today. And we have also two other maps that we have attached to your packet, as well as John is going to put on the screen, that will show approximately 8, 9, 10 different areas that could be added to the Neighborhood Revitalization Plan. Just a reminder that this plan runs through the end of the year of 2013, but we've had several requests for people within a new area to ask for an amendment to and an addition to the existing plan until we revitalize revamp the whole program in December of 2013. So what John has put up for you is a couple maps that will show you some areas that we feel like would be beneficial in our community to have a neighborhood revitalization plan area. Staff is recommending that, yes, John has them up on the map. Staff recommends Area 1 and 2. These areas happen to be involved in a floodway area, and so would be very restrictive on what type of new construction that could be involved in these areas. But the existing construction or the existing structures would be eligible for some type of revitalization if they decided to improve their properties, and therefore be eligible for a tax rebate. The other areas that staff is considering, would suggest to you, is Area 5, 6, and 7. We know that those areas, several of those areas are in need of some type of rehabilitation work, either on vacated structures or structures that need some assistance, and so we would recommend those 5 different areas to you today. But as the maps show, there are other areas that could be added to our revitalization area, and so we'd like to open up to you and give your thought and your input to us so that we could finalize the neighborhood revitalization plan if you wish to move forward with some type of amended plan to the revitalization area. So that's what we have for you today. We've got 2 different maps, as John's showing to you on the screen, of areas 1 through 10, and we recommend areas 1, 2, 5, 6, and 7. I'd be glad to stand for any questions or any comments you have or any suggestions for us.
A question on the so on the areas 1 and 2, any construction there would require significant earthwork in order to bring that parcel up to a standard that is required?
It would take a very ingenious engineer to engineer a plan that would actually take this area out of the floodway and not impede any water flows into the existing area. And that's the whole key, is the structures that we build on this area would not impede any water flow in that area. So they'd have to be elevated, yes, but they'd also not be able to build some type of a wall or retaining area unless they figure out a good way around that. And most of them work through that program through piers and columns and adjust the structure height, the main floor height, up out of the floodway area of the base flood elevation.
Mm-hmm. Are the areas adjoining I-70 then not as much of an issue, or is that why construction has happened there, or is it just because it was a good business decision to be by the interstate?
Much of that construction was completed prior to the flood mapping areas. So you were talking about 1950s, 60s, and 70s, when the 1980s, when the flood mapping came into effect.
Mm-hmm. Does that change the standards for the construction that's already there as opposed to new additional construction, or?
That would be correct. Any new construction would have to meet the FEMA guidelines and requirements for floodplain or floodplain insurance, but you have to be carried on those structures. But the main thing is, in a floodway, you cannot impede any water flow. And so that's where the big issues come with being able to structurally support if you remember back a few years ago, that area was totally flooded, basically up to the area of the Interstate 70. So those areas would have to not be able to impede any floodway water's movement in that water movement in that area.
Not that this would change anything, because we've seen it flood over there, but how often do they do the flood updating? You know, is it every 5 years, every 10 years that they do these maps?
There is no set timeline
No,
that the
just
pattern should be
whenever they feel
reviewed.
like coming up.
We're under review as we presently talk.
Okay.
We'd be lucky to complete something by the end of 2014 from what we understand. So that's going to be nearly 20 years since they've
Right,
done
because
it.
the last one was within 5 years, wasn't it?
They did a study, but the program was not completed.
Okay, okay.
And that's what we're under now is final
Okay.
review, and then we will have the maps out hopefully later on this fall for a final review and completion in 2014.
Okay.
But that's the goal. It's not a set date in time yet.
And I believe Daniel Stack had come to a Home Builders Association meeting a couple years back with a map and had
Exactly.
explained some of that. So
Mhm.
just that kind of stuck out in my mind. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I'd just like to comment, Mr. Hobby, that this is kind of what I was hoping to see, so, or what I expected to see. So I know that I had made the request, so I just wanted to let you know that I appreciate the work that you went through to do this.
So you'll be making a motion?
So if
Well-
nobody else has a...
No,
Well, I did want to ask one thing. Under the neighborhood revitalization program, I've always thought of that as revitalizing housing more than businesses. And is there any certain, like, percentage in the plan for housing and a certain percentage for businesses?
Good question.
Sure. In the present plan, and most plans in the state of Kansas that I know of, and I only know about 5, real well anyway, that there is no percent that has to be 25% commercial and 50% residential or vice versa. There is nothing in the state statute that require you to go to any certain percentage for either residential or commercial construction. It allows the community to have as much say-so in the plan as they wish. There's really no percentage of rebate either that is set up specifically. The state of Kansas has not said you have to have a 50% rebate or a 100% rebate, and that's up to the community as a whole. The state, just back in the early 1990s, 1994, 95, decided it would be an incentive that each city on their own should be able to offer to residents in the community. But we have a higher percentage in our community of residential properties that have been worked through the program and received some type of rebate. It's probably 3 to 1, but it doesn't mean that we're specific on a percentage of commercial or residential properties.
Any other questions from the commission?
I'd just like to make just a point for maybe those that weren't weren't watching last week or 2 weeks ago when we had this originally, and maybe just a clarification why I like the 1, 2, 5, 6, and 7, and that is that they have existing structures on there that when you're looking at the tax rebate, the tax base that we're starting from, there is something that exists there now. And so the rebate applies to the additional portion of the increase in value. And whereas if it's some of these parcels that have nothing on them would start from a base of virtually 0. So I appreciate the fact that we're looking at these parcels that don't need particular incentives to be developed upon, don't have those, so that we can maintain as much of that tax basis as possible. So again, I appreciate the work that was done on this.
Commissioners, Commissioner Blanchard makes a good point, and this is not really one of the topics that we'd intended to address, but when you look at the details of the plan, if you look at a redevelopment, whether it's a structure, you can get in essence up to 100% for the first 5 years tax exemption and 50% for the next 5 years. If it's a green space development, I believe that's 50% the first 5 years and 25% the next 5. So I think that's probably what it takes into consideration is that beginning tax base level, and saying we don't want to give it all away, and we really want to have a stronger emphasis on the renovation and the redevelopment versus just green space development, even though that is allowable.
Mm-hmm. Which brings up another point, Gary. It's the amount above and beyond its current tax rate. Is that correct, or?
That's exactly right. A tax base will be set of value by the county appraiser at the time that the application is completed, and then the improved area will then be reassessed at the end of the project and it will be the difference between the old and the new rates.
So if
And
you've
that's
got
what
a
the tax rebate would be.
Commercial lot bringing in $15,000 or $20,000 a year, and it goes up in value, and is now appraised at $60,000 a year, they're still paying that 20 or 15 or 20.
That's exactly right, and that's one of the things the state
Which is,
statute.
I think, maybe just more clarifying it simply to the,
Yeah, the state statute recognizes that the cities cannot afford to lose a base value.
Right.
And so they have said, yes, this is a base, but it's on the improvements.
I just needed an Aaronized answer there. Yeah.
All right, any public comment on this issue? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Well, I'll make that motion. I move that we approve the expansion of the neighborhood revitalization plan area to include the areas referred to as sub-areas 1, 2, 5, 6, and 7 by amending the 2009-2013 neighborhood revitalization plan area within the city limits of Salina, and instructs city staff to inform and request approval from the other taxing entities which would be affected by the amended plan adoption, and return at a later date with an amended 2009 through 2013 neighborhood revitalization plan area.
Second?
Okay, we had a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion passes 5-0. On to administration.
Item 8.1, authorize the award for the Phase 2 of the Home Investment Partnership Grant for 5 housing rehabilitation contracts.
Mr. Hobby again.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mayor and Commissioners, we have before you Phase 2 of a home grant rehabilitation program that's been operating in the city of Salina. John is going to show you some pictures of our Phase 1 grant that has been recently nearing completion, I'll put it that way. We are on house number 5 of the 5 homes that were approved earlier in the spring and winter time, actually, is when they were been working on. We're nearing the end of that, and so we have gone out to bid for another 5 homes in this same grant program. The rehabilitation of homes will be existing homes at 1005 North Santa Fe, 516 Inez Avenue, 1217 North 9th Street, 217 North 2nd Street, and 260 North Phillips. Each one of these homes has had an investigation by the North Central Regional Planning Commission inspectors. They have come up with a required work order or a series of projects that would be completed on each one of the houses within this neighborhood. The Phase 2 would allow us to use the remaining home grant funds that would be available to the city of Salina. It also uses a portion of weatherization funds that were not calculated in the original grant funds, but it also includes the city of Salina match funds. This grant actually allows about $29,000, a little over $29,000 of grant funds from the city of Salina, as we have pledged as match from the very beginning. So at the end of the program, we'll be using 100% of the HUD Housing Home Rehabilitation Grant funds that were allotted to the city. We'll be using approximately 2/3 of the funds that were set aside under the original grant of the matching funds from the city of Salina. We'll be using the neighborhood of $65,000 of the $87,000 we pledged for this grant. We'd like to move forward on approval of you today with approval of all 5 homes going to one contractor. And the reason why we'd like to have one contractor be awarded the bid, other than our contracts that we have in the very beginning with our grant process, says no more than 3 contracts can be given to any one contractor unless the City Commission directs us to do that. In this case, we'd like to be able to move forward with one contractor to receive all 5 grant projects in order to save the city approximately $2,000 in our matching grant funds. This would not be home funds, would not be weatherization funds. These would be just funds from our existing grant match that we'd have within the program. We feel like we'd like to take those grant funds and use them elsewhere in our community for other housing rehabilitation projects. So in that case, we would like for you to award to Ponton Construction for the amount of $139,307 the award for Phase 2 of the Home Investment Partnership Grant Program in the city of Salina. I'd be more than glad to stand for any questions.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was trying to figure out what you all did to 814 West South.
I was looking at that one too.
I
was
can't tell
puzzled.
what.
Hard to see from that picture, but I imagine that's typical, all your windows and...
Must have been.
Well,
The majority of the work on this house was completed on the interior.
Oh,
The
interior.
exterior of this
Okay,
house
that's
was
why
not eligible because of some historic values, was not eligible to have the vinyl siding, and so
Okay.
the big bold change from the exterior of the house was not here. The house was repainted to the historic values of the structure in that area, and therefore all the work was completed on the inside of the house.
Looks like a new roof as well, yeah. Yeah.
If I could make a couple of points. I didn't notice it till just now, but I believe the value that's cited in the recommendation in the blue sheet is actually the total for the second high bidder rather than the low bidder. I believe the correct amount for Ponton Construction is $126,415, but I could be wrong about that. And then secondly, just as a note, each one of those individual addresses and homes, Ponton Construction was the low bidder on a address-by-address basis.
Individual listings anyway, okay, okay, that's good to hear. Has there been some thoughts as to, and I know this could go two ways, has there been some thoughts to maybe redeveloping one whole neighborhood area and putting all this money into one area, or do we feel that sprucing up houses may spur neighborhood self-revitalization, or is there a rhyme or reason, or is it just kind of...
Is there a method to the madness?
Yeah.
There is method.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say madness, but I mean, yeah, I mean, it's...
Yes, the method behind the home program or a community development block grant housing rehabilitation program is to work with low to moderate income people who apply for the program.
Okay.
We don't go door to door soliciting programs and people to apply, although we do hold public meetings and have as much information we can get out there into the public and that type of thing.
Sure.
These are by applicant, by need, by desire, and so they're not necessarily focused on one specific neighborhood. We do have some internal funds that possibly could be worked with, you know, the remaining amount of this funds as an example or something could be used to work on a specific neighborhood if we had a neighborhood that wanted to come forward and say, yes, we have a greater percentage. Community development block grant funds required 51% of the people that are involved in the program or the area that we use be low to moderate income. Where home opens it up to a larger capacity of the community. It just requires that the individual owner be a low to moderate income person.
Okay.
Any other questions from Commission?
I apologize. As I look at that further, and it may be useful for Mr. Harvey to go into the numbers in just a little bit of detail. The second high bidder is the amount of $139,370. I believe the recommended bid award is $139,307, which is a combination of Ponton Construction's bid amount of $126,415 and the other grant columns, but
that's exactly
I apologize
right.
for injecting any confusion here.
No, the blue sheet is exact.
Okay.
They have added other administrative costs into a couple of the houses, and so it's higher than what Mr. Ponton's construction bid was.
Oh, okay.
We have radon that have shown up in a couple of the houses, and so we're trying to work through the program with Salina County and their testing, as well as their installation of the mitigation equipment. And we're not 100% sure on the value of that equipment yet, if a portion of our city funds would be required to work with that project or not. So.
Okay.
I have a question, and then I would just like to entertain maybe a conversation with my fellow commissioners here. And the question though is on this one, I noticed that there were only 2 bidders, and there were was there 5 bid packages picked up? And
that's exactly right. There were 2 bidders. 3 bidders came to our pre-bid conference and had indicated we would have 3 bids for this project. Remember that there are some specific guidelines from the state of Kansas over and above the guidelines for the city of Salina for contractor licensing. These contractors and their employees have been through multiple continuing education programs on radon, on lead-safe work practices, and various things that not all contractors in the city of Salina are already certified in. So there are some specific guidelines from the home program for the contractor, and then we throw in the guidelines for a contractor to be licensed within the city.
And then, so on phase 1 with the 6 houses,
yes.
Do you remember off the top of your head how many different bidders we had on that? I seem to recall 3 or 4.
We had 3 bidders on that first project.
Okay.
The same 3 that came to our pre-bid conference.
Okay, and then out of those 3 bidders, how was this? Was it split 3-3?
It was split 4 and 2.
4 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And we again had to award 4 houses to one contractor compared to today we're going to award all 5.
And then it's kind of having flashbacks of fire department stuff here. And how do we assure that the quality of the product that we're receiving is what was bid and what we expect to get? Is that?
It's a good question. There are two ways you're assured of that. One is the inspector who has completed the review of the structure itself and has made up the bid document sheet that knows line by line item. And usually there's close to 24 different line items that are being looked at for home quality standards. And there's a minimum, the threshold that that inspector looks for, and that's those home quality standards. And the house must be brought up to or exceed those home quality standards by the state of Kansas. And our federal government, HUD, requires the same thing. And so the inspector from North Central Regional Planning Commission actually visits the home, completes the review and the interview with the applicant. Then we send those documents out to bid. And then anything that would require a building permit is put under a building permit from the city of Salina. So we have the inspector from North Central Regional Planning Commission and we have the inspector from the city of Salina, both monitoring and watching the program to make sure we ensure to get our best bang for the dollar we're putting into it.
And were the two contractors that did the 4 and 2 on phase 1, are they the same two that
They are the same
bid?
contractors, only this time the low bidder was a higher bidder on the top two.
Okay, and I assume that since these houses are done and we have before and afters, that the quality is comparable between the two companies?
Yes, very much.
Okay, now I'm going to ask the question that I think Jason knows I'm going to ask here, and that is, being that we have two companies, and I assume they're both local companies, they both do good work, and that they're probably going to do the work in continuum and not consecutively.
Exactly.
Can we and that the only factor is the $2,000 that we want to go with all 5 to 1 is so we don't have to pay an extra $2,000. My question is can we negotiate with company B to do the work at the roughly $900 less for that, and then award 3 jobs to one company and 2 to another, so that we have 2 companies in town that are employing people and putting people to work instead of just the one?
Yeah, when you asked that, I was thinking about these all as a package, but as Mr. Hobby referenced, they were bid individually. So typically, let me answer that typically, then we'll come back to this, and then I'm probably going to look at your city legal counsel. Typically, we would be in a position of needing to honor the low bid. That's our policy. Doesn't mean that you can't, but usually it takes a pretty big reason to go away from that. And if we don't do that, what happens is sometimes you lose bidders because, you know, if they earn the low bid, they get upset, they may not want to bid on your projects, and that's a reason that you typically try to do that. But you have good specifications when you do that as well. In this particular case, we do have the home rules, which generally are no more than 3. So it's a discretionary action for you to say, well, we don't have to award all 6 to one bidder. We could award 3 to one bidder and 3 to another. So because home says, typically, we don't want you to do more than 3 per bidder, but you can if you want to, you can do that. The general guideline is don't do that. In this particular case, and the question goes back to your question of the dollar amount. So let's say that the three of the properties, not sure which 3, but 3 of the properties go to the low bidder upon construction, and you'd like the other 3 properties to go to Kansas Sand and Construction. Then it's the question of, as you mentioned, of can you negotiate the dollar down. I'm gonna get down on a limb. I would think that based on the way this is set up to bid, that you're probably going to need to honor their bid amount if you wanted to do that, but you would have discretion to utilize Kansas Sand and Construction, but honor their bid. But I would defer to our legal counsel if you felt that you have the legal ability to do either or. I'm not sure about that, and that's a question for Greg.
I think Mr. Hughes' analysis is correct under the current circumstances. The way this was put out for bid, I believe his analysis is correct.
A lot of times what happens is even if we created the means on the front end to do something like that, and I think that's something we need to look at. If there's ever a situation where we have multiple items bid, you want to keep the integrity of the bid to be fair to all bidders. Try to get the lowest cost to the taxpayer as possible and get the best quality work you can. And as long as you're comfortable with all those, the more you can allocate that out to the community, it's a nice thing to try to do. And in this case, you know, the timing of this, you mentioned the timing. I believe the contractor can do a house, finish it, do the next one, finish it, do the next one. So you don't have multiple houses being worked on at one time, which fits in with the grant time frame. So we looked at that versus, say, an urgency of getting them all done at one time. We could have looked at it the other way. It was really at your discretion. But a concern could be that from a bidder, if we're not careful in how we do it, is, okay, I have a bid, it's not the low bid, and I may want to do it for the low bid. That may be something I want to do, or I may not, and you're kind of shaking me down to the low bid to get me there. Got to be a little bit careful with how we would set that up. I'd be a little hesitant on this one, but I think the general question is a good one, and I think we could probably figure out some options possibly if we had similar scenarios on how we would structure the invitation, or how we would retain discretion with, say, you know, X number of products. Could be a road project too, for that matter, for a single contractor versus you know, having 2 or 3 contractors involved. I think we'd want to think through that a little bit. I'd want to make sure that Greg says, yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with your approach from a legal perspective, so it couldn't be challenged. That's probably the biggest thing.
Could we, now this is getting in Aaron brain world here, is it possible to write into our contract that we're soliciting bids? Now, of course, there could be the risk that bids could raise in cost as a result, but letting them know that traditionally it is generally a 3-bid to 3-bid thing, asking all the people who put their bids in to say, if you aren't the low bidder, would you still be willing to do the houses at the low bidder's cost? I mean, just thinking of options, I mean, again, playing this home rule thing about the 3 houses, you know, or do we stand to get better bids if we know that the commission would okay one guy doing 6 houses? You know, you always wonder which is the better negotiating tactic.
You know, there's a possibility you could do that. The only concern you might have is that if that was going to happen and you didn't expect a lot of bidders and the bidders had a relationship, it would create a collusion situation.
Exactly, and that was my thoughts too. Not saying that there's any these particular companies, but just bidders in general. And I wonder if the 6 is more enticing if they know that there is a potential that we will allow all houses to go to one bidder if they're just going to bid more competitively to get all of them. That's probably the better.
I think on this one, and again, I presume that the folks from the home grant would pay the difference in the bids because of the rule that says we'd rather you not have more than 3 homes per bidder, but I'd have to ask Gary that question.
Their maximum is $25,000 per house, and it depends on the home quality standards of that house, how much they will put into each home. So you see, when you looked at the sheet, there are different values in the actual amount that home would put into the project. And depending on the condition of the home, the needs, the desires, bring it up to housing quality standards, they have a maximum value that they'll bring into the house. Basically, what we would be paying for the extra money of this $1,700, $1,800, whatever the value is, would be coming out of our matching funds. We would increase our match towards this project.
So it appears here you would have the option to say we want to award 3 of the homes to one bidder, 3 to the other at their bid, not at the same bid as the low bidder, but at their bid in accordance with the home program rules. And if there's a reason to do that, one reason could simply be that you'd like the projects to run concurrently to try to expedite the time frame so that whoever, in the scenario of one contractor doing all the homes, whoever would be those last few wouldn't have to wait so long. You know, if that's important to you, that's something that you could vocalize. But what Mr. Hobby's saying is a decent chance we would have to pull in some city funds for the difference?
Yeah, we would be, over and above what would be improved in item number 1, and your request today would be going to item number 2. We have selected 2 homes that we feel like if you wish to do the 3-2 split, that would be best moved to Kansas Sand. That would give us the most bang for our buck. It would still use 100% of our home grant funds. It would just be a difference in our city match funds that we would put into the program.
How was this project advertised to the contractors? Did they think ahead of time that they would be given the opportunity to build a maximum of 3 homes? Or were they told that you may have the opportunity to build all 5 of them if you were the low bidder on all of them?
They're told at a pre-construction bid that there's a maximum of 3 homes that would be allotted to one contractor unless the city commission approves the low bid on all of the structures or 4 of the structures or whatever the case may be. You could choose today to go 4 and 1. You could choose 3 to 2. You could choose all 5 to one contractor. It's up to you as a city commission if you want to go over and above the home requirements for this project. But you do have to vote on that front.
So the person that would, the low bidder on all 5 of them, would basically have their choice of whatever 3 they would want. Say we decided to split them out. They would say, and I'm just exploring.
We could tell them.
I'm just exploring number 2 here.
Yeah.
And ways to, and not interested in spending more money.
Yeah.
And that's why I asked, can we negotiate that to the low bid price?
No. I
think that gets
Or say if you
yeah.
would be willing to do that to Kansas Sand, would you be willing to do that? They say no, then I say give all 5 of them then to the low bidder.
Right.
I think it gets a little risky.
They
Yeah.
are told at the pre-construction business to put their, or pre-construction bidding conference, to put their lowest value that they would be willing to do that structure for as their bid documents.
Right.
And it's line item by line item. And so all 25 or all 17 line items that are in that project may be different from one contractor to the next, depending on the overhead, depending on the staff, depending on subbing it out, or whatever the case may be. So they're not all exactly the same line item by line item on each one of the projects. But we look at the final closeout of the grant at the very bottom of the dollar of the most economical, what we did. We took the lowest value of each one of them, and that's what we came up with Ponton Construction.
Okay. So now, go ahead. Excuse me. One question on these unrelated to the bid price and so on. Do we have a just looking at phase 1 here, the first one on the list, 629 West Prescott, 25,875. Do we have a value of what that house was worth prior to improvements and then
Yes.
after improvements?
Right, you do that on all the houses.
Yes, in order to even get to the point where we would bid and do the inspections and bid on your property, we have an independent appraiser go in and look at each one of the structures. Knowing that we're going to put anywhere from $25,000 to $35,000 into each one of the structures, is that value still going to be there when we complete the project? And if there is no value there at the end of that, if it's not warranted to put the $25,000 of grant funds into the project, then that house is set off to the side, and we go to the next house. And that's what our administration staff goes through. They review each one of those and make sure that our beginning value and our ending value are still greater than what the grant funds being installed into that property.
Okay.
Yes.
And what is the best way to measure whether this is a successful program, or, I mean, do we have any sort of, someone help me out here.
Well, I mean, I just think
Any sort of
it's only been
criteria?
going a
Been
couple
doing
of
about
years.
15 years.
Yeah, it'll probably take 10 years to really.
The Home and CDBG are programs from back in the early 90s, maybe even the late 80s, and they have helped communities throughout the state of Kansas. Not every year are we granted funds to be in rehabilitation. We've been very lucky for the last 3.5, 4 years to be able to be granted rehabilitation funds. I can almost guarantee you today that that will not happen in 2014. HUD and Home and CDBG, Housing Resources and Department of Commerce are looking at other areas that they would like to move these funds into. And it's going to be looking at homeless and housing for homeless and that type of thing in the next 2 or 3 or 4 years. So we're going to have to come up with a program internally to be able to fund the same type of rehabilitation as what we're doing today. So,
Well, and I notice here we're about $5 to $1 that you've leveraged on this for the whole thing, and that's good. So,
how successful are we? My success comes when we spend 100% of the grant funds.
Yeah.
Because if I leave anything on the table, that means we missed something somewhere. And I feel like our administrator has done a great job to make sure that we use 100% of those grant funds. We've left very, very few funds back into home or CDBG's opportunity at the end of our grant cycles.
Are these people able to sell their home then as soon as the work's done, or do they have certain restrictions? Or
They do. They have a 3-year requirement that within a 3-year period, if they would sell their structure, their home, they're prepaid back $136 per month after the home grant has been completed, $136 per month. At the end of that 3-year period, then it is removed from their liability.
I just had a little argument with myself over how these should be divided. And at the beginning, I was thinking, well, if they think that they're going to get 3 homes, then that means that both contractors are guaranteed homes, that they're going to be a winner. And in my mind, that might mean, well, let's maximize our gain, which is natural, and in hopes of, well, because we're going to get something out of this. And to that extent, I'm almost tempted to go the other direction and to look at the low bid on each home, and in this case, all falls within the one contractor. And I think it might be, I guess, since the contractors are told that that's a possibility, that we're not really reneging on anything by awarding all of the contracts to one
Commissioners,
contractor.
typically with just our own local purchasing policy as applied, this is a little different because we have the home guidelines, which gives you some other discretion, but typically we would go with the low bid for each of these today.
Yeah, I like Commissioner Blanchard's idea of sharing the money through the construction companies and sharing the wealth as well, and I think it has a good merit, but I kind of tend to think, since they did know up front that potentially they could have all 5 houses, that may be a better idea. But I definitely see the significance of what you're saying, too.
Right, with the thought that $2,000 would be negotiated so that it would be a zero cost. But if that's not negotiable, then like I had said before, then I say let's go with the low bidder on all of them. So
are there any other questions or comments from commission to staff? Any public comments? Okay, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I would move that we approve the award for Phase 2 of the Home Investment Partnership Grant Funds for the rehabilitation of 5 homes to Ponting Construction Incorporated in the amount of $139,307, including the use of the remaining $125,000 of Home Investment Partnership Grant Funds, $9,378 in weatherization funds from North Central Regional Planning Commission, and an estimated $29,929 of city revolving loan matching funds. By awarding the bids to one contractor, the City Commission agrees to amend the policy of awarding no more than 3 homes to one contractor in an effort to take advantage of the lowest bids.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. On to other business.
Madam Mayor, I move that we...
hang on a second. I think Commissioner Hardy would like to.
Well, Commissioner Blanchard and I were chatting prior to the meeting several days ago about the possibility of using the other business item to talk about some of the things that are going on in the committees that we are assigned to bring the commission up to speed in terms of what's going on on the various committees.
And would that be something we'd want to address in a separate executive session?
Or a study session, I think is where they've done it before.
Yeah, those are open discussions, so you could do it in other business, but Commissioner Crawford's correct. A lot of times we'll fill time, especially if we have extra time, or we can just schedule time as well in the study sessions, and that's a good opportunity to give you a chance as well. So.
I thought about that. I'd almost prefer an other business here. The reason is that our at-home players get to see more of, and I see it more as an opportunity for us to discuss. We meet with a strategic plan once a year. It'd sure be nice weekly or once monthly or every a couple of times a month to do exactly what you're saying, and that is sit down and just sort of, again, talk about what the health department was saying, what arts and, and airport, and just kind of bring us up to speed. I think it's important for the people at home maybe to see that more so than there, and, try and keep it
Well, even
brief.
if there's time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, if we're at a 4-hour meeting, we'll probably skip it, yeah.
Right, well, a
No,
lot
I'm
of,
just talking about the study session is, we
Yeah.
were going until 5 till 4, you just don't have time.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of times you will find you have some extra time, but it's really up to your call and what your preference is.
Yeah,
You can do it either way.
I think it's a great idea, and I know we've talked about it before, too. Not all three of us at once, of course, but.
Well, and then I had another item, too, I was going to talk about, too, being the 2-year guy. There's a chance in the legislature to move the elections up from April to November. And according to Commissioner Householder, the planning takes place in November, December, somewhere towards the end of the year, perhaps.
I think so, when we do our kind of
And-
strategic planning. Yeah.
Usually it's in the fall.
In the
yeah.
fall sometime, but regardless, if everything happens that way, then I would have a year to have my input and see some things done that I think might be beneficial to the city, which would not be a heck of a lot of time. And so I'm wondering if the planning process should be explored a little more frequently to allow people to have ideas, and ideas change, priorities change, so that we can maybe get more done and maybe be more efficient as a commission as a result.
In layman's term, he says we have ADD, and we just need to kind of keep this baby changing all the time, yeah.
In reference to different committees we're assigned to, I don't think like a weekly update or a monthly update would be in our best interest, because our meetings do tend to get long-winded. I think maybe quarterly would be better. I know we get emails from each department on minutes, and I think, it's the listeners at home would probably appreciate something, but I don't think,
I think if each,
weekly or monthly. I think quarterly would be sufficient, just to do a brief
that,
update.
that's only 8 times for him, and I think, even if it takes 5 minutes, there may be nothing new. I may say, tourism
Yeah.
said this, and it
I'm
might
not-
take 5-10 minutes.
I wasn't going to rehash the whole meeting.
Yeah.
yeah, I do think,
But then
though,
you get
that,
back and forth, kind of like we're doing now, and we're
It's,
already going into 10
Right, it's-
minutes before our executive session.
Yeah, it's what we're
right,
paid
and it's
for.
very,
Just
and it's
talk
very,
about-
right, it's,
these on or
sometimes it'd be
off.
longer or shorter, but for example, we just voted on an item that had to do with significant amount of money from the North Central Kansas Planning Commission, to which is a committee that I'm on, and we actually had a meeting a couple Thursdays ago. And, there's a lot that goes on there, and it would probably take me 90 seconds to give you an update on
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So why don't I go for it?
Yeah, there you go.
I'm gonna tell you guys what we did.
Actually, we need to go down to our
Yes, we
executive
need-
session. We can do that some other time.
Well,
Because
can we do it after our executive session?
We can do it in executive session. How's that?
Oh, I don't
Well, I
think we
think
can.
that,
No,
I
don't
think
think
that,
Yeah.
I
We
think
need to
that
get
that
into our
defeats the
executive
purpose
session.
of trying to let people know that, that we do attend other meetings.
Right.
That, in the case of North Central Kansas Planning Commission, a lot of the surrounding communities in the area, we rely on as their retail hub. And I think relationships like that, the tourism committee and the other ones, I think that we might want to consider a little more than a quarterly type
Yeah, I would.
review for. I think just for the people to know that a lot of other things are taking place, and that we're handling it.
It's not just boring.
Yeah.
Stuff.
One thing too, a lot of those meetings happen all at different times.
Mhm.
Your other business is an open invitation to you to bring up something.
Right.
It wouldn't be harmful if at any other business section of the agenda, one of you may have had a committee meeting, one of you may, or the rest of you may not have. It just
Right.
depends when it falls. If you want to volunteer and say, I'd like to do a quick 2-minute or 5-minute
Right.
update,
Yeah.
you could do that.
Yeah, I'd like to think we
We
could
wouldn't
move-
have to even
Right.
have a
Yeah.
static
But
time. You could do that.
If we can keep it to 2 to 5 minutes,
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
issue.
Sure.
Mayor can.
Track that gavel down. Come on, we're done here.
Not here.
There you go.
Somebody did my
Swiped it.
gavel.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. We'll get you a bigger one.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a good idea, and I think we ought to, like you said, we'll keep it short, but if something gets heavy duty and
Well,
it's
and some
required-
items are of interest, like the health department, for
Sure,
instance.
that we may need.
Now, I will say something. If you want to do that, that's a good thing to do. You will create a larger public expectation of, one, that you're going to be able to attend most of those, and two, in order
Exactly.
to, you're going to have to attend, obviously, to report. So that's something to
Well,
think about.
Right.
Well, I
So,
think
John,
that,
that is
I
put on
think
your
that when,
schedule.
I think that when you run for the position, you kind of make a commitment that you're gonna
Be there.
do that. So I think the expectations would be nothing less than what should be expected.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I just want to make sure that you,
Sure.
I
that you
appreciate
realize
that.
that.
That tourism's like 7:30 in the morning, I don't know. You may be getting that one quarterly, I'll tell you that. Any other business? No. Madam Mayor, at this time I move to recess an executive session for 30 minutes to discuss with legal counsel matters subject to the attorney-client privilege for the reason that the public discussion of those matters would waive the privilege, adversely affect the city's interest in matters. Reconvene at 6:20.
Second.
Craig, do we expect any legal action on this at this time?
Do we need a motion?
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
We're now in executive session.